A humpback whale tangled in around 200 metres of rope off Victoria's Gippsland coast has been freed. The rescue operation came almost a week after the whale was first spotted, towing not only ropes, but also 11 buoys, all the way from Antarctica. So what is it like to deal with an 18-metre mammal in what is such a delicate operation, while to make things even more difficult, a shark is circling? To tell us, we're joined by Mike Irvine, Parks Victoria Ranger Team Leader at Orbost. Mike, thank you for joining us. Now, this whale was first spotted 5 days before the rescue began. It had to be found again. Can you tell us about that tense time, knowing the animal was in trouble and the clock was ticking?
Yeah, sure. Thanks, Gemma. The whale was spotted sort of early last week. We were notified and got teams ready with boats and all the gear that we need. It's a combined operation between Parks, DECA, Fisheries and Police, so there's a lot of people and a lot of effort involved. We sort of lost track of the whale. We put up helicopters and aircraft to try and find it, and then not quite gave up, but towards the end of the week on Friday, it was respotted, and we assembled everyone, and we were actually able to get out in boats to the whale, which was about 8 kilometres offshore from Lake's Entrance at that stage. And we were able to attach a telemetry buoy, a GPS tracker to it. It was getting fairly late in the day, and we were able to cut one of the lines coming off the back of the whale with the hope that that may pull free. It was quite a complicated entanglement with the rope tangled around the main body of the whale and trapping the pectoral fins, the side fins, right up against the whale. So it really only had its tail to use to move. And it appears it may have been towing this stuff around for quite a while, and possibly all the way from Antarctica. It's commercial fishing gear, which we're not used to dealing with either. Normally it's local stuff, craypot lines, those sorts of things. But we managed to get back out to it Saturday morning and were able to get on site again with boats and ready to go.
And how do you approach a whale in this way? I mean, we saw some of the footage there. It was thrashing around a little bit. And how did you physically get these ropes off it?
Yeah, well, we approached it very, very carefully. So you can imagine a 35-tonne whale, 16 metres long, and it was still quite active and healthy. So it was spinning on the spot, thrashing its tail now and then. Then there'd be sort of some calm moments where it would just be on the surface and breathing. And those calm moments, there's three crew in a point boat, we call it, which is 6 metres long in this case. So we're less than half the length of the whale. So we want to stay away from that tail that could swat us at any moment. So we're trying to stay out of that tail zone, even though we're within a couple of metres of the whale quite a few times. We have to come up as close as we can, and we've got different types of knives and cutting equipment we use on poles and on ropes to try and free as much as we can from the whale. The usual entanglement we're trained for was around the tail, and we can get quite close to the tail and cut stuff off it and get everything off. But because this was around the side of the whale, as you could imagine, we can't come right up against the whale to the side or within that danger zone. So we couldn't get everything off it, but we did cut all the main gear off it on the Saturday, and it left probably 5 just short lengths of trailing rope. And the reports from the helicopter were the body wrap seemed to have already loosened a little bit. So we are hopeful and confident that that may loosen and it may be able to shake the rest of it free. Now it's not towing a ton or so of ropes and then buoys and all sorts of other gear.
Yeah, a job well done. Now, I've got to ask you about this shark. It was interested in this. It must have been pretty scary. I mean, I'm imagining you guys leaning over a boat.
Yeah, well we're as we were coming into the whale on that Saturday morning, that the helicopter, I called them up and they said, yeah, it's all good. We've got the whale, it's got the buoy on the back, but there's a shark hanging around, so be careful. When I asked them how big is the shark, they just went big, over 5 metres. So yeah, when we're doing our cutting and grabbing ropes and all the rest of it, we've got arms in the water and leaning over. So a couple of times the shark was apparently just a couple of metres from the boat. We couldn't see it, so the fin wasn't coming out of the water. But just another thing to throw into the mix to keep us on our toes, I guess.
Another thing to stress out the whale there as well. Now, as to what the whale was towing around, all this rope and the buoys that you've described there, you've been able to cut it free from. I mean, was this impacting its ability to move and to eat?
Oh, definitely. So there were barnacles on it. So I got a bit of the rope here. So this sort of stuff it was towing, which is like really, really thick rope. Barnacles on it. It was towing like hundreds of metres of rope with buoys on the end of it, and this rope is wrapped around its pectoral fins, like I said earlier, so its fins or its arms are trapped in by its side, really limiting its movement, so it could really only swim with its tail. When we got to it, the tail was sort of hanging low in the water, and it was coming to the surface and breathing okay, and thrashing around a bit now and then, but it would have really restricted in what it could do and feeding and all that sort of stuff.
I know an investigation is now underway into just how this came to be for this whale with this rope and buoys, but how would you say the rescue operation went with all these elements and authorities coming together?
Really, really well. Like, we trained for this. There's several of us who have been training for this over the last 15 years or more. And for some of us, this is the first time we've actually dealt with a real situation. So we deal with whale strandings and dolphin strandings and all sorts of stuff with live animals. But the first time with a entanglement, it's quite rare to be able to relocate the whale and get to it. So we've had plenty of false starts over the years, and we have had a couple of operations in Victoria over the years, but it is quite rare to get to it. So DECA, Fisheries, Parks Victoria, Water Police all come together in these situations, and communication's key. So we had 3 vessels out on the water, including the one I was in. We had a helicopter flying over the top, and we've got an incident team back in Hayfield in the office there, and everyone's involved, and everyone's a critical part of the effort, not just the ones on the red boat you can see there. That's the one 3 of us were in cutting the ropes. There's a lot more to it than that.